Hi, I'm Anna from Urbica, a data analysis and visualization company based in Moscow. We are currently a team of 11 software engineers, data scientists, designers, and cartographers. We work with urban data, which is mostly location-based. That's why we make a lot of maps, visualize a lot of geospatial data, and build interfaces around that data. The design we create is beautiful, but we are not designing for the sake of beauty. For us, making things beautiful is making them clear, evident, and simple. Since 2016, we've been helping Moscow Department of Transport to reinvent the surface transit network in the city center. The city has loads of data on how people move, which vehicles they board and where do they go. But all of this very valuable data is not of much use, existing in the form of thousands of tables. We transform this data into a very informative, yet very comprehensive and simple interface, which is not giving any answers itself, but it makes the data visible to the transport analyst and helps them find insights and make the decisions. And this work, which started with raw data, has a very measurable result. Buses and trams all around the town. We love urban mobility, and another one of our favorite projects is an online dispatching system for Moscow bike share and Velobike. We first started working with Velobike in 2015 when we visualized their data and we just saw some patterns of how people bike in Moscow. And for us, this was an opportunity to improve Velobike's service and to help them solve their main problem, the inconsistency in demand. When running a dog-based bike sharing system, there are two situations you want to avoid. First, if a station is full and no slots are available to hand over a bike. And if a station is empty, you can't rent a bike. That's why Velobike is rebalancing, sending trucks to move the bikes. And they used to do this with mobile phones, just calling the driver and telling him to go pick a bike. And we've developed an interactive online dispatching system for them, which shows how the infrastructure is working, and also have a predictive module, which forecasts the situation for the next hour. This interactive tool was designed to improve the service of Velobike for the bikers and to lower the cost of the business, and that's what a data visualization can do. We are not only interested in how cities move, but in how they work in general. So in 2017, we've participated in the Age of Agglomerations research in collaboration with Sputnik, Novaya Zemlya, and Megaphone. We've created an interactive tool which helps understand how major cities across the world are planned, developed, and operated. For this project, we had to do a lot of data work. We've collected, processed, and visualized data on 23 cities across the world, and put data from dozens of sources on one map in one interface. No statistical data for Russia was available, so we've partnered with Megaphone and visualized their cellular data. And this not only helped us understand how many people work and live in Russian cities, but also what the real borders of the agglomerations are. But this tool was only a part of a huge project, and researchers flew all over the world to talk to people and to take the field service. But when we put the results of the investigations on one map, the data became explicit and helped the researchers. The age of agglomerations became the main theme of Moscow Urban Forum 2017, and it also resulted in a beautiful book on how cities across the world are operated socially, politically, and financially. Visualizing data can help understand not only the present but also the past. So we've partnered with Moscow Museum of Gulag History to create the map of Gulag history, which shows the development of labor camp system during 42 years of its existence. No retrospective digital data on Soviet Union's borders of locations of cities and towns was available. So we went to the map division of Russian State Library and worked through atlases of Soviet Union from 1918 to 1960 to digitize the data. The research department of the museum worked for decades to collect information about where the camps were located, how many people were there, how many people died, and to make machine-readable geospatial data of it, we've developed an admin panel. And for us, this is an example of how visualizing data can have social impact. Because looking at this map, you get the sense of the scale of Gulag, and you can understand its influence on all of us. And this project is available online, and it will also be a part of museum's new exhibition, which opens this December. Thank you.
Hello, I'm happy to be in your beautiful city and happy to see you. I want to tell you about informational art I'm working on. I call this style complexity graphics, and I work with lots of clients in the US, including Breakthrough, Initiatives, lots of magazines like New Scientist magazine or Wired, HP, like lots of different companies that work with big data. And this style started, so the first time I was inspired by infographics when I worked as a psychologist in school, and we made a test for kids called sociometry. So each kid had to answer 3 questions, like who would you invite to your birthday party, who's your best friend, and some third question. And I had to visualize it, you know, the map of the class. And I didn't know those kids, but I saw on this infographic map who of them was really popular and who of them was really lonely. And we as a psychologist could work with those kids and, you know, help them to be not that lonely. And I was really inspired because, you know, there were just like dots and lines and connections, and there were really powerful things that we could do. So yeah, and then I started doing some drawings while I was like on the phone, like lines and dots, like everybody does that. So and then I tried to make them digital. So and then they start to live their own life, and they start their kind of evolution process. So from like simple waves, they are, you know, now they can be like big data, meditative works, like future city, art, and anything else. So this piece is an abstract network, and I like to dream about like living, breathing big data networks. So I like to imagine how they breathe, how they grow, how they develop, and so on. So next video, I call it informational diving. It was made about 6 years ago, I think, and it's sort of like her inspiration about big data. And how to make it play. Yeah. Oi, mama. Yeah. I won't play it like all the video. You can watch it later. So I was inspired by the way how this simple style can show us the world of connection, and I thought that, you know, everything is connection, everything is information, and I tried to understand how far this style can lead me. And for my clients, I do like real data visualizations. Like this is a real data image, and I try to make it more inspiring and beautiful. And sometimes I do just like metaphorical big data, because huge companies work with like crazy amount of data, and it's impossible, and sometimes just it's not beautiful, you know, when you try to show all this data. So they use metaphorical way to show how beautiful it is in mathematical way. So, but this piece is real, so that's why I decided to show you this one. And these illustrations I made for. So I tried to make a series of work for describing the world of change, world of complexity, so-called VUCA world. I think you know this term. So this is a short slideshow. Wait. So then I started thinking about some infographical living forms that could be tiny, and they could keep information, they could produce electricity, or being an antennas, or being a huge space cities. So sorry, it's too complicated. And how to make it play? No. Sorry about this. Okay, forget it. So, anyway, we are going next. I have also I like to think about noosphere. First, I heard about this term in Vernadsky's books. I think you are familiar with this, with his like geosphere, noosphere, semiosphere terms. And in his book, he wrote that his generation won't understand noosphere because it's a sort of connection world that is covering our Earth around. And it's a world of knowledge, world of connection, world of information. And he said that generation of his granddaughter and next generation is gonna understand this. So thinking about this noosphere term, I like to imagine how future art could work. So I like to think about this, and I already started working on this. I like to imagine these city mandalas that would be connected, for example, to like charity in every city. So as much charity is going on in some city, so at the beginning the mandala will be simple, and if you make this charity, really good, this mandala will grow. But I don't want us to know the results. So I want us to be surprised by the result of. So we will just add some rules, and then we're gonna see how it grows. So this is city mandalas. But actually, all my dreams about this future art are really connected to my dreams about holograms, because actually I think that almost all of the holograms we have so far is kind of fake. So it's just like sort of like different projections, and I'm dreaming about. Real hologram that you could, you could be interactive with them, you can touch it, you can create it. So that's gonna help to make our dreams come true and make a really collaborative art and collaborative projects. Yeah, so this is the project I hope to work on really soon. It's an interactive temple, so you will be that small. Columns gonna be really huge. They're gonna breathe. Mandala gonna spin, and you're gonna control everything. Because I think that temples have to be intangible, not non-material. And then click, and you turning the temple off. One day I got a message from some person. She wrote me, "Tatiana, do you have a religion? Because I'm in." So I decided that it's time to make a temple. Yeah. Also, I like to dream about data cities, future cities. I like to imagine this big data storages in this architectural forms that could be transparent or not that transparent. So I like to create letters and then words and then phrases like architectural forms, but I like to use pretty simple forms like canvases and domes and so on. So I think this future architecture will be really really connected to nature. So it could take energy from nature and protect you sometimes and give energy. So maybe that these structures will cover the city we know, like usual city with electricity, gonna be covered with these huge antennas. Yeah, so these are my dreams. And then you can hide in these domes, and you can make the covering not that transparent, and you can sleep there. Yeah, and Cosmos. Of course, I'm inspired by Cosmos, because when I was a little girl, I liked to play in a game. So my small room was a spaceship, and so I flew for about 5 years. So I had a window, and I flew through the cosmos. I had all the pirates around, and all the problems was going on there, and I was playing, and years passed, and I'm much older now, but sometimes I find myself near a computer doing this stuff, and I think that I'm still a little girl playing in a Cosmos game in my room. So I like to visualize some maps. This illustration was based on a real map, cosmic map of 19th century. So I recreated every dot, every distance of every star, really in precise way. And these spaceships were made for a director from Hollywood, J.J. Abrams. They called me once and told me that I have 4 days for creating 2-dimensional spaceships. And they told me, you have 4 days, go crazy. And I actually did. So these are my spaceships. So I like to imagine how they breathe, how they open their protective fields. So they have these stations. It's like a huge city. And this is a project I'm really proud of. It started in a funny way, because once I made an illustration for some fundamental physics prize. And I thought it's just the Russian physicists, and I decided, of course, I'm going to help Russian physicists, and I made some illustrations, and then they disappeared. And after 1 year, I was walking with my Labrador, and I got a call, and people told me, are you Tatiana? We were looking for you for 1 year. We are guys from that physics prize. And I said, yes, how are you guys? So how's your prize going? Are you okay? And they said, yeah, pretty much. So, we're pretty good. Every scientist got $1 million, and that was, this prize was launched by Stephen Hawking, Yuri Milner, Zuckerberg, and Sergey Brin. And it was translated on CNN and led by Morgan Freeman. And me and my Labrador were a little bit shocked, because it was, unexpected thing. So I was really proud to see on the, on the background my images with, Stephen Hawking. So I'm really honored to be part of this project, and he even made this Facebook post that I'm really, I was happy to see that. Yeah, and this project, I just want to tell you that it's very important to tell about this project to teenagers, because Mark Zuckerberg and his wife Priscilla are doing this challenge for teenagers. So teenagers should make a video for some theory in some science, mathematics, physics, life sciences, and they choose the best video from all around the world. So it's very, very interesting, and please tell tell teenagers about this project, because it's very interesting. And so I want to finish with a few words about future art. I think we should really change our way to perceive this digital art that is going to be around us really, really, really soon. Because so far we are connected with this art in the same way we were connected with the painting on the walls. So we try to project some digital art on the floor, on the walls, and make it interactive. But that could be much more inspiring. That could be an instrument for us to connect, for us to dream together. For example, my friends from St. Petersburg already make a beautiful project called Heaven Reality, where they collect people's dreams and images from people's dreams that are that people see quite often, and they already make these images in augmented reality. So guys, we can dream together, we can connect through this this art, and that could be really, really huge. And for this, this image is pretty dark, but I wanted to tell by this image that for these goals we need a really good community of artists, of programmers, urbanists, scientists, and we should work all together. And let's dream. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I hope you're not thinking this guy again, but I was asked to kind of moderate a conversation between both of you, and thanks very much for the very interesting presentations. I'm going to try and say as little as possible. I'm sure people have questions from the floor. When we were putting this together, one of the questions we were kind of thinking about was the relationship between using data as a kind of material in creative processes, and I think there's a really nice kind of parallel or comparison between the way you guys are both working about this question, and the kind of idea that to what extent are we telling stories, or are we, where is the kind of the truth of data lying in some of these questions, and what are we using data for? And so I think maybe we could start with a very simple question, which is there ever too much data? Is there ever too much information?
I think that I really like the book of Yuval Harari called Homo Deus, and he said that soon all the religion will be forgotten because we're going to have one religion called dataism. And he likes to say that Google and Facebook gonna know you better than yourself, and then he says that no, they're gonna know you better than your mother. So they're gonna keep all your data, like biological data, your heartbeats when you meet Karen or Susan or Mark, or so, you know, biologically they know you better. So no, that couldn't be too much data, you know, but it's gonna be difficult to work with it, maybe.
Well, I think speaking of urban data, the more data you have, the more work you have to do to make sense of it and to find something valuable in that data. Well, I don't think there is too much data, but the bigger the data is, the harder it is to visualize, but we need better data, not bigger, I guess.
Sorry, maybe we could grab another microphone, sorry. But I was just actually thinking, sitting this close to the screen, I had quite an experience of big data kind of looming down. But the other question I was going to kind of follow on from, and you both kind of referenced making predictions in your kind of work at some point. And I was very kind of struck that the use of data to make different kinds of predictions. So in the case of the kind of the Velo bike project, you're making kind of qualitative predictions about the future, and then you're using data in a different kind of predictive model. I wonder if you could say anything about the relationship to using data to predict things or predict the future.
Actually, I'm not predicting, I'm dreaming. So I'm a dreamer. What can I say? But you know, sometimes artists and dreamers are inspiring people who create really big things. So I hope that inspiration is enough.
Yes, I think we can use data to predict the future, and there is machine learning for that. That's it.
Because the other question we kind of floated in the run-up to this was, to what extent is there kind of an element of hallucination in the process of like relationships to data? Like how much, and it's this question about dreaming and using data to dream and kind of tell ourselves a different story. I wondered if, how do you imagine this, how do you think about using data to hallucinate or to imagine a different kind of future that is potentially not even possible in certain cases?
So I think that if we're talking about dreaming, I hope data could help us to understand ourselves. Because when we think, it's also not my thoughts, Harari's thoughts, when we think that we take right decision, we are not taking right decision most of the times, because we are just like biological creatures and led by some mood or health state. So it's great for us to understand the reality, you know, the reality around us. And as soon as we understand ourselves, we're going to understand our cities better, our communities better. And yeah, so let's start from psychology and start dreaming and hallucinating about like data about ourselves, not about like beautiful structures in the city. First, we should know who are we.
Yeah, and I think that, yes, we can use data to understand the world and just the cities around us. That's what we try to accomplish at Urbeca, actually. I think that there will be more of that in the future.
Because you mentioned machine learning and kind of artificial intelligence, and this articulation that we might use data to know about ourselves, how do you see the relationship there in terms of the idea that we could then, there will be, say, software processes that have their own ideas or their own insights? Do you see that playing a big part in your work in the future? Or in your work in terms of like making machine learning integrated into kind of data visualization models?
I have no idea.
Well, I'm not sure about machine learning and data visualizations, but it's actually more like you analyze data and then you visualize the data to look at it, and you find some patterns, and you find a way to improve your analytics, and you go back, you analyze again, visualize again, and analyze again until you get the result. iterative process.
And I have an idea. So I want, if the main problem will be analyzing this data, right? So then we should make it as a game, because for instance, if I would have lots of my personal data around me, I would like to organize it in the way I want to see that. So I want it to be personal. Great idea, I think.
So you think the future of kind of relationships with machines will be more personal, potentially, or?
Yeah, so you could control the interface, right? Why not?
I think something I find quite interesting is that you're probably working in quite different ways, and you were sitting next to each other on the train here, I think, and I wondered, like, what do you think about each other's work, if, in the kind of context of the presentations?
I really respect the reality that Urbika have, because I'm a little bit dreamy person, so and I really hope to collaborate with these brilliant people. So maybe we could do something beautiful
Yeah,
together.
we've already discussed the possibilities of some collaboration.
Yeah,
breaking news, I guess. Maybe we could open it up to the floor if people have some questions. Unless, I mean, if there's more things you'd like to add, or should we get some questions? Okay. I think we need to get a microphone. Going back to this, because the other questions I'm interested in here, and I think in the conversations we had, was about like storytelling, essentially. And I think this idea of like fiction in relation to our kind of data profiles, our data selves. One of the questions was kind of, to what extent are we telling stories when we use data to kind of put forward certain positions? Because, I mean, you could take the perspective that in data presentation, data visualization, that it's kind of somehow objective. But, you know, you must be aware that in the construction of this thing, certain stories are told. But then at the same time, when you kind of potentially more fantastical about the use of data, there's also a hard reality there. And I wondered, like, how does the potential of these things being fictionalized or the idea of narrative feed into what you're working on?
So I think storytelling, so far we have a limited amount of stories that we repeat century by century with the same heroes, same stories. And maybe data will help us to make a next step. Maybe these stories will change, and they didn't change.
How do you think they'll change?
I don't know, maybe they will be the same but more realistic.
Because I think this idea that there is the kind of stories we tell ourselves, do you think then that the data is a story that we're telling ourselves at the moment, or will it be used to tell other stories?
No, I think data is real, so I really believe in data. It's not a story that we tell ourselves now.
You would make there's at the root of what you're working on, that there is hard kind of objective reality that data is based upon. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because you actually, during the presentation, you said everything is information. Is that?
Everything, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But not everything is data. Not all the information is data. Yeah, sometimes you have to work a lot to create data from information, to make it machine readable. And I think there is a lot of work to be done to create more good data in the world and in the cities, because we still don't have enough good data, and we still are not good at collecting and storing data. Our cities are not good at that yet.
It leads to the obvious question, you said there's not quite enough good data at the moment, and there's like a different approaches to data collection in Russian cities. When will there be enough, do you think? When will there be enough? I mean,
on December 15th.
Okay.
It's not about the amount of data, it's about the quality of data. We just have to learn to store it properly. Because you cannot just visualize anything. Yeah.
Okay, because you talking about visualization, one of these, to reflect on your presentation as well, that you were talking about psychology and the kind of human perspective, and I'm very intrigued by this relationship between visualization in data and like the psychological idea of visualization as a kind of forward projection of the self, or if you know, and you kind of always see it in kind of like the self-help gurus are always saying like visualize your own future, you know, like imagine that you are and something, and the universe will give it to you or something. And I'm curious that this is the kind of same word that's being used here, like, and I wonder if can you think of data visualization in terms of like producing the future that you want as well, or is it only analytical?
It certainly can help make future better. I think.
You don't think it helps us create the future?
From this perspective, yes, as like to plan the future. You can analyze like retrospective data to plan the future, make the future better.
And I'm wondering, okay, we found a microphone now. If there's anyone that has any questions?
Thank you guys for the discussion. У нас есть время на вопросы из аудитории. Девушка.
Здравствуйте. Достаточно наивный и практический вопрос. Действительно, у российских госучреждений очень много информации какой-то собрано, но немногие заинтересованы в том, чтобы ее как-то приложить, визуализировать, привести в нормальный вид. Ну, у нас есть хороший пример Москвы, которая занимается своими системами. Есть пример всей большей части страны, которая не очень заинтересована. Просто насколько продвигаются эти проекты и способы визуализации данных в различных госучреждениях, ведь это действительно поможет просто в большинстве вопросов сделать работу эффективнее и проще воспринимать тот груз непосильной информации, который у них имеется в распоряжении. Спасибо.
Ну, я, конечно, не знаю о том, что происходит в госучреждениях в России, если честно. Но в Санкт-Петербурге, насколько мне известно, тоже есть довольно неплохой портал открытых данных, так же, как и в Москве. Может быть, там чуть меньше данных, чем в Москве. Ну, цель этих порталов, которые в том числе существуют и во многих других странах и городах, в первую очередь, сделать именно сырые наборы данных доступными для горожан, чтобы они могли сами их скачать или визуализировать и проанализировать, или как-то пересечь и найти самим что-то интересное, если они захотят. То есть это вряд ли для понимания широкими кругами лиц выложено. Но зато любой желающий человек может их скачать и сделать карту с ними. И если увлекаетесь, то можете этим заниматься. Вот.
А еще вопросы?
Один вопрос. Вы употребили такое интересное выражение, как хорошие данные. Good data. Что это значит? Отобранные какие-то данные или это хорошо упорядоченные данные?
И то, и другое, да. Ну, например, если мы хотим найти пересечь какую-то информацию, какие-то наборы данных между собой, например, об остановках наземного транспорта, и в разных ведомствах эти данные вдруг будут храниться в разных форматах, мы не сможем объединить эти два набора. Это пример того, что я имею в виду под хорошими данными. один из многих примеров, потому что это, скорее всего, должна быть политика на уровне целого города, о том, чтобы договариваться, как мы храним данные, где мы храним данные, в каких форматах и что мы можем с ними делать потом. Вот.
Еще два вопроса там. Девушку.
В продолжении вот этой темы, если мы говорим Санкт-Петербург и Москва, то какого качества данные сейчас на этих порталах расположены, откуда они собираются? Ну, то есть если это две камеры, да, на двух перекрестках, наверное, это не очень репрезентативная выборка. Вот насколько с этим можно работать уже сегодня?
Я воздержусь от ответа на этот вопрос. Это лучше, чем ничего.
Еще вопросы? Вот там был молодой человек.
Hi. By sampling that data, you are talking more like a scientist. What do you think about all the data that we are missing? Because I think we are evolving within ourselves, but leaving behind a lot of the ecologies that are like nature in itself. Like we're missing a lot of scientists who can analyze all the living species, not us, not just us. So I agree with you, like it's a really nice thought to think that first have an ecology of mind of oneself to not damage all the environment is a really nice approach. Like it makes me feel more at peace. But what do you think all the data that we're missing from the ecological networks that are surrounding us? And for me, my position is that we are kind of destroying these ecologies just to humans survive. In the end, I think we are kind of destroying ourselves at the same time. What do you think about this missing information from ecology? Do we need more scientists that can sample precisely, like she wants to have better quality of data than how can we do these things? I don't know, I ask you because I really admire the work that you've done. It's really nice. Thanks.
I'm just 100% with you. I think that what we do with nature is terrible, and our main goal is to really, use everything, data or anything else, to help, stop humans from what they do. How to improve it? I think visualize in some really effective way how we destroy, But it's not working. I don't know. So that's why I really like book of Yuval Harari, because it's half of this book is about this ecology. Yeah, Homo Deus, please, Homo Deus.
Yeah, I want to add that we actually can understand a lot by analyzing satellite images and, for example, looking at how the amount of woods change and how the rivers change. And a lot of such work is being done around the world. And basically, data and satellite images are data, is helping us understand what's going on with the world. But I guess we have even more possibilities, and let's hope that humanity uses them.
Еще вопрос? Молодой человек в очках.
I have a question for Tatiana. What kind of software do you use to visualize the big data that beautifully?
So I have Two ways. I have a coding program called 4V, and but usually I make them in simple Illustrator. So clients are sending me some graphic they have, and I just incorporate them to my graphics. So it's just like usual graphical Adobe programs, and I animate them in After Effects. And in case I need some data analysis, I can use 4V program, but I just need my programmers for that because it's too complicated for girls' mind.